Good evening and welcome to another wonderful edition of Laugh Until You Fart. Today's discussion is going to be very interesting. In today's discussion, we're going to discuss the importance of a certain matter that boggles me. A simple conundrum, if you will. This situation, it plagues many Americans. It's a very simple situation. It's a situation where you're in a position where your father and one of your children's friends challenges you. And you lose in that battle. What do I mean by that? Say, for instance, you have a child. You have a kid. And you're going to your kid's school to try to find out what's going on, and your kid's being bullied. So you confront the kid, and you talk to the kid, and you're like, my kid only has one dad, so don't put your hands on my kid. And the kid says to you, well, I'll put my hands on you. And the guy says, are you serious? Now the kid, not a normal sized child, probably a little bit bigger than the average kid. He destroys your father, beats the shit out of your father. It's pretty bad. How do you deal with this, being the kid that your father got beat up by your bully? How do you feel about that? How do you feel? So basically, today's discussion is pretty much being the father that's been beaten up by one of your child's bullies. That's pretty bad. Or being the father that got beat up by one of your child's bullies. So we're gonna open both of those realms of discussion right now. First way we're gonna establish this discussion is basically we're gonna start off by saying, okay, so you got beat up by your son's bully. All right, so how do you feel about that? Okay, well, so the guy feels bad, like, So how does the kid act towards his father at that point? Do you retaliate? Now, what if you retaliate because the bully beat up your father? Now, your father can't hit a child. It's revenge. Obviously, he wants to beat the kid up now. He wants to get even. So, he trains his kid. He's got his kid training. He's playing Eye of the Tiger in the background. And he's got the kid working hard, getting pumped and in shape and everything. Just so he can fight this bully again. Your son finally beats the bully. Now, your son can actually defeat you in a fight. So now, if you ever got into it and you got mad at your kid and you're like, go to your room. He's like, no, Dad, you go to your room. That's what you do, Dad. You go to your room. Because I beat the bully, not you, Dad. You know what I mean? So how do you feel? And then your father, so you have to respect it. Like, now your son can beat you. You know what I mean? So now it's pretty bad. Like, now you got to think about it like, okay, well, I may not be able to defeat my son. So I really may not be able to discipline my son anymore. So now your son, maybe he becomes your enemy. I don't know. Maybe he becomes your ally. Maybe he becomes your protector. I know it's pretty weird. It's pretty bad. The other thing is, the kid, he goes to school every day. So now that you go to school every day, you have to deal with all the kids chastising you and hitting you with all these euphemisms. Oh, your father's a bitch. Oh, your father's a bitch. Oh, your father's a bitch. So all the time while you're in school, you have to hear that all the time, that your father got beat up by a 13-year-old. He wasn't the average size 13-year-old. He was he was bigger than the average 13-year-old. He looks like he could have been at least 21. Maybe he'll invite your father for drinks on Friday night. Maybe. He can do that if he like to. But here's the thing. Your father got beat up by a teenager. So how do you deal with it? Your father's 30 years older than this kid. He could have sex with their mother, which probably would be the way to get back at him. But he's not going to do that because now he knows that if he goes to that house, their child can beat him up. So he's afraid to go over there and talk to the parents about it. So he goes over there. Maybe he goes over there and confronts the parents about what happened with the child. So he goes over to the house and he says, hey, you know what? You know, your son beat me up the other day when I was trying to confront him about beating up my son. So the parents are like, you know what, I'll talk to him. And the kid comes downstairs, you know, Todd, whatever his name is, he comes downstairs, comes to the table, you know, sits down, he's like, yes, Mom. Did you attack this man? Yeah. And then he's like, oh, okay. So now the kid's like, okay, well, yeah, you know, I beat him up, yeah, okay. What of it? And the father's like, what do you mean? What do you mean, what of it? And the kid says, shut your mouth if I do it again. Now the guy's scared, doesn't want to get beat up by the kid again, so he's like, you know what, man, maybe I should just leave. So these are situations that you may have to deal with. So to sum it all up, so I can kind of wrap this up, pretty much, don't get beat up by your child's bullies trying to defend your kids. Teach your kids it's okay to defend yourself, to be tough, and, you know, don't let anybody push you over or whatever. But try not to get involved in that, because even if you win, it's a battle you can't win. But when you lose, it's even worse. So don't get beat up by your kids' bullies. And this is Smiley with another wonderful edition of Laughing Till You Fart. You have a wonderful evening.